Hey everybody, welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. This is episode 446, being recorded on April 19th, 2017. I'm Ryan Shrout.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
And I'm Allyn Mamatana.
The show has started. We're ready to go.
We're only 22 minutes late.
Is it late at that point, or
it's just 2 minutes late?
No, it's 8 minutes
just
early.
2 minutes late? Oh, okay. So with that in mind, we're going to go ahead and actually let me zoom in a little bit here. There we go. We're going to go through our stuff today. First up, we stream the show live at pcpro.com/live. And if I never say this at the beginning anymore, but if you wanted to if you're listening to the show and you're like, man, I really wish I knew what they were talking about at time period X, because I listen to some podcasts that don't reiterate what they're talking about during a 25-minute discussion, and that really annoys me. But we have show notes at pcpro.com/podcast, so you can find all that there. However, if you want to watch the live stream, you need a little gentle reminder. You can sign up for our mailing list over here at pcpro.com/subscribe. You get this page here. Let me do that. This page here asks for your name and your email address, and that's it. Then I send you an email anywhere from an hour and a half to 12 minutes before or 12 minutes after the podcast recording has begun. But either way, you're notified of what we're doing. Stop staring at the cake, Allyn. I know that's what you're doing.
That was.
That's not weird at all. We also have our Patreon campaign currently running. We are only 8 participants. You can't tell yet. Hold on. We are only 8 participants away from 400 patrons.
400.
Which would be amazing. So if you go to patreon.com/pcper, this is your way to become a monthly kind of recurring contributor to the site. It could be $1, it could be $3, it could be $10, it could be $50, whatever you think we're worth. I would round up though, just because I know us. And this allows you to contribute monthly if you do something like ad blocking. This is a recent topic for me, for a couple of different reasons, as we look at how much percentage of our site is hit up by ad blockers, and the answer is about 40% of our traffic has ad blockers running on it. So that kind of sucks.
Not a small number.
Also, I was learning about the Brave browser today that automatically does blocking and all that kind of crap. So, I'm thinking more about alternative monetization methods. This is your way to contribute if you do that. As always, if you become a new patron or increase your patron contribution, like $1 or more during the show, I will read your name off of my phone here when I get said email. So we'll do that, and we would thank you very much for that.
Otherwise, you get the GIMP.
Yes. We don't have it in the rundown here, but there's a very important event occurring next week. Josh, do you know what this event is?
Well, Passover was last week, right?
It was, yes.
Oh, it's my monthly shower.
Oh, good. That's good timing, because next week I
is.
will see you, and I would like for you to have showered. Yes.
At least once.
So Josh and I are going to drink at a bar in London.
All the way there just for drinks, huh?
All the way there just for drinks. And we would like to invite you to come drink with us at said event. We are going to be there, there being the Momentous Bar inside the Cumberland Hotel, which is conveniently located.
Isn't that owned by Benedict Cumberland?
I think
or is that somebody else?
He'll probably be there. He'll probably bring his Doctor Strange costume. I assume.
Sure.
At the Cumberland Hotel, located at Great Cumberland Place, London, and then 6 digits, numbers, letters, etc. April 27th, that's Thursday, April 27th at 7:30 p.m., London time. We're going to be sitting probably in one of these cozy booths, snuggling up on the same side of the booth, of course. And so we would really like you guys to come stop by, say hello, hang out. We're going to have some people from ARM there. They're sponsoring the event. They're bringing us out there. They're going to get us some food and some drinks and whatnot. And they're going to have a couple of Chromebooks there for you to play around with. But really, you're just there to meet the celebrity that is Josh and his
entourage, bathrobe,
and his, I was gonna say, zookeeper with the leash, Ryan.
Oh, I see.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
I would say lion tamer, but if you've ever met me, you know that lion is the furthest thing from me.
He will be wearing a collar, though, I can assure you.
It's going to be one of those electric collars. No, Josh, no.
So really, it'd
Well,
be
otherwise,
really
he's going to
awesome.
run around into the park and stand at Speaker's Corner and stand on a soapbox and start screaming.
Exactly.
Where's he going to
is
find a
right nearby.
soapbox?
So again, it's April 27th. It's in London. Here's a map in case you need a visualization of our location. We're pretty close to, like, just south of us, I believe, is one of the palaces. I don't know if it was Kensington Palace or...
Well, south is Buckingham.
Buckingham
and
Palace,
west
yes.
of that
Yeah.
is Kensington.
And so I think they really wanted to get us a spot as close as possible to the palace in case the Queen wanted to visit, have a drink.
Queen's gonna visit Josh, huh?
Well,
I do have some royal blood.
The Queen does
In
the
like a
banishings
bottle?
in person.
I see.
No.
She handles that
I'm
herself.
like 150th in line of succession for the royalty of Norway.
Yeah. The Queen's gonna knight you, except the sword is gonna be at a 90-degree angle.
I mean, if you head to
I
Norway, you
think
could
they
probably
just
knock a
wanted the
couple
Yanks to
people
be
off.
comfortable because there's a McDick's just around the corner.
it's also worth noting that even if you can't attend the event in London, which, by the way, I really encourage people to do, I think it'll be a lot of fun. We'll be there from like 7:30 until whenever we stop drinking. Which our flight's not till like 1 p.m. the next day, 12 p.m. the next
Yours
day.
maybe
When's yours?
like at 7 or 8.
In the morning?
Yeah,
That sucks for you.
Son, you got to plan that
it
better.
does. Yeah,
Hey, you're
well,
just going to
hey,
stay up all night.
that's a good plan. I'll just
You
sleep
gotta
that
make,
night.
you gotta
all
make these
night.
flight suggestions. In any event, we've got several people on Twitter and in the comments have talked about coming from, a couple of hours away by train. So it's really awesome. The more people we can get there, the better. I want at least a handful of people to show up so that I know that somebody actually listens to us out there and reads the website. But regardless, even if you can't attend the event in London, you still can go to the post here titled PC per Meetup in London and enter to win one of the 2 Chromebooks that we have. We have the Acer Chromebook R13 and the Samsung Chromebook Plus, powered by the OP1 processor. So you can still enter to win those, even if you're not going to be at the meetup. But we'll have them at the meetup to show off. So there's the summary. PC Perspective London meetup, sponsored by ARM, 7:30 p.m. to approximately midnight on April 27th. Momentous Bar at the Cumberland Hotel. Apparently we're in Marylebone. That sounds like a place in London, like a neighborhood in London. That's reasonable. So big thanks to ARM for that. Big thanks for Josh for coming and drinking beer. We really appreciate the sacrifices you make for us as a community.
yeah, because I've never wanted to visit England at all in my life.
Never.
And sample local brews.
Never. And you'll never get the chance again.
Get the real ales. You'll
We'll see
love
how this turns out, Josh.
Well,
All right, let's talk about some crap other than the beer we're going to drink next week. So, Ken posted a story.
No.
No?
No.
Oh, incorrect. Ken didn't post this.
Ghost Rider.
Somebody wrote it as if they were Ken. This is the OBT.
You know me.
Are you? Damn it.
I was even drinking a sip of beer at the time, and
The Open
got
Bench
there.
Table. This is otherwise known as the Streacom BC1. So the relationship here is what? So the Open Bench Table was an open source project on Kickstarter? No.
no,
Something like that, wasn't it?
I don't think it was crowdfunded.
Oh, no? Oh, okay.
I think they might have done pre-orders, but I think it was a collaboration from like HWBot and a couple other communities.
Okay.
Kind of got together and decided to build the ultimate bench table design.
So this is what you get when you order one of these. You get this single piece of aluminum that has actually been milled into many pieces of aluminum. Well, I guess just 3.
Yeah.
3 pieces of aluminum, and then you get all the accessories with it too. It's very how thick is it? Maybe a half an inch, 3/4 of an inch thick.
I want to say it's like 6 millimeters.
I'm sorry, you're gonna have to translate that. I'm not in London.
I don't
yet.
know how to translate it.
More than
That's why I
1/4
said
inch.
6 millimeters.
But less than a half.
Less than a half inch.
So
It's about
bigger than a bread.
3/8.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So you get this, and it is a
pretty
test
thick.
bed that builds out to looking like this in the icon. Right now, it's a little bit harder to see in that particular picture. But when you get it, it's really neat. Everything is very cleanly
Flat
organized. Yeah, flat packed. It's difficult to do. These 2 sections here are the legs that come out, and all the screws you need, all the attachments you need are all built into. Like if you want to break it back down.
It's a completely toolless design.
Yeah.
You don't need a screwdriver to put this thing together.
Yep. So, here you take one of the legs out and you've got the motherboard standoffs on there. We go through the setup of here's how you mount the power supply.
Do the legs like stay flat on their own? Like if everything was flat and you just picked it up by the edge, would the legs stay on the table or?
Wait, no. The legs are
attached.
attached.
Okay, so they're attached within the plane of it when it's stored.
You see here these screw holes on top of it. There's a screw that goes through the top of the test.
He's talking about when it's flat.
Yeah, when it's flat.
But yes, when it's flat, it's thumb screwed in there.
It all stays in one piece.
Yes, it's all one piece.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. You could pick it up that's a handle.
Yeah.
Up top here for you to pick it up and carry it like a briefcase for.
It's handy for
like
trade shows or like if we need to have a system set up somewhere.
Trade show system setup. The frequent mobile overclocker. I don't really. I'm gonna be honest.
Market.
I'm going to my LAN party.
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't really understand.
I'm going to disassemble my computer first.
So this shows the power supply attached with the standoffs. These standoffs are really cool.
I've wanted these standoffs for years.
They don't require screws. They have both options, right? They have ones that require screw downs.
Yeah, they ship
but these are
traditional
just
standoffs.
like push. What would you call them? Like push down?
Yeah, they're like push pins.
They're like push pins. So when you push the motherboard through it, they kind of like snap in place.
Oh, they hold on a little bit?
But they're not plastic. They hold on a little bit.
Okay.
But they hold on enough that you could flip it upside down with, no video card attached.
That thing's not coming off.
And the motherboard's not going to fall off. But when you do want to remove it, you just kind of
tuck up,
put your
on it a little
fingers
bit.
underneath the board
like
and
pops
push up.
Yeah.
I mean, you got gravity helping you most of the way, so.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. You can see how the SSD or hard drives attach right here. They're perpendicular to the body or to the flat plane of it. They hang and you get screws in from the bottom.
That's kind of my least favorite part of this design. I don't know where else they would have put the drives, but you're in theory able to put a 3.5-inch drive there, and that just seems like kind of a bad idea.
They're actually rated to work sideways.
Yeah, it's just
to me
it doesn't feel right.
What hard drives are not rated for is any kind of thing in between.
Yeah,
it's got to be flat or it's got to be on its side.
Okay,
90-degree angles.
Yeah.
To me, when I look at it and when I use it, is more of there's a lot of if you're plugging in a power supply cable into the power supply underneath here, and you maybe pull your hand out quickly the wrong way. You could put a lot of force because of it's essentially a fulcrum. You can put a lot of force on the. I'm talking about where the screw meets the power, or where the screw
and even
meets
the connectors.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah,
but where the screw meets the actual SSD, I feel like you could just bend that. The screw probably wouldn't bend because it's steel.
No,
and the frame is pretty thick aluminum.
SSD housing would just unfold.
SSD housing
the SSD would absolutely give first.
Yeah,
right. So I don't know what you would do if that were a hard drive.
Well, that
I don't know.
Would not give.
Something would have been maybe your hand.
If you're only using an SSD, you could just tuck it somewhere else. You
could. I think it looks really cool because you can't really tell from this picture, but it's not touching the ground. It's suspended in air underneath there.
Did we try sliding a hard drive in there? Will that end up resting on the table?
No.
Okay.
No.
There's still a gap.
It's also still a gap.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, that's cool.
It has the ability to mount water coolers to the top of it or the back of it. You can see there's these little brackets here that you put one screw into the radiator, one screw into the aluminum frame of the test bed itself.
Yeah.
It supports 120s and 240s. I think it supports 140, but I don't think it does 280.
Correct.
I think that's the case. Yeah. We had a little bit of a complication with the installation on this part where the screws provided weren't long enough to go through the arm, the little bracket and the fan and get into the radiator part.
Yeah. And the screws that were included with the radiator had the wrong head size to work with the aluminum piece. The aluminum piece isn't countersunk.
Yeah.
So it just kind of wouldn't work out.
Countersinking on that would solve that problem.
Yeah.
So in other words, possibly you might have to make a quick trip to the hardware store.
No, I mean, so what we ended up doing was running the fan the other way, right? So actually now it's blowing air across into the system, which is not ideal. You could have it pulling air through, I guess.
I mean, it's an open test bed.
Fine. So. Yeah. I mean, it's not really that big a deal. And I think our complication was caused by the bottom of this rad has part of the res on it. And so it kind of lips out just a tiny bit.
Yeah.
And that distance is what gave us the headache.
Yeah, water cooling is kind of the weakest part of this. I mean, again, you can make it work by doing stuff like that, or going to the hardware store and just getting longer bolts and figuring it out. But
yeah, I mean, So
if you want to water cool, just be aware that you might need to get some extra hardware.
To make it work.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to see one of the shots where we pan across. Here you can kind of see there is another thing here. You can see the power supply. There's like a little gap right there. The fan is actually down in that, right? So it's drawing air on that power supply.
There were a couple comments on the article saying that that's supposed to be the other way around with the fan on the top of the power supply.
It didn't work
We couldn't get the screw holes to line up. It's possible that we just jacked that up. I'm not going to say that it's impossible that's the case. You can see here the push pin. Really? The push pin style.
It's like it's like a slotted cylinder, so that it can actually flex inward.
And then if you go here, you can see the that's how the SSD is mounted across. Look at us using that slider. You got to use that more often.
That power supply thing sitting that close to the table, though.
Yeah, same. Because when you're using the slider, it looks like you're doing jazz hands and pounding some bongos.
And then as you go through, if you look through their page on it, it gives you a pretty good breakdown of what it's all about. And these are all 3D renderings. Those aren't actual pictures. I will say the big drawback to me is price on this. Still, it's expensive. It's relatively. I guess you can answer this, Ken. It's close in proximity to the other open test beds we've looked at?
It is. Around sub $200 seems to be out the price range, somewhere between $150 and $200 for these sort of higher end test beds that aren't made out of just flat rolled steel or anything like that.
Yeah. I really like it. I want to get more of these to replace our test beds. Again, we're kind of a unique scenario in that what we do all day is build and tear down systems and run benchmarks for 3 or 4 days, and then we move on to the next system or whatever it is. So having the convenience of this is really important to us. And I'm sure there are some people that just like to see all their components and see things, and they don't mind a little bit of extra noise of something being not enclosed in a case. So it's worth checking out. So it's the open bench table. It's interesting because it's open in that you can download the plans for this and mill your own if you have access to aluminum. And
if you had access to like a water jet,
they
you could
offer
do it.
The plans.
Yeah.
You can download like the step files.
Now
or
you don't get the hardware.
Files.
Yeah, you still need the hardware though.
Yeah.
And you still have to drill and tap all the holes and stuff.
Yeah,
you sure do.
You can make it out of wood.
Yeah, if you had a mill. Like a CNC, you could do it. Kind of the real reason they give the schematics is so that people can customize it and design accessories, which there are a couple of accessories.
They even 3D printed accessories, right?
Yeah.
Where, I like the idea of that.
All right, Ken, let's get a big enough 3D printer to just crank out these.
I thought about it.
I
can't. I don't really think I have access to a big enough one anywhere.
Oh, darn it.
We'll just get some of that glue you got with the spray and
one
shit.
for yourself.
Here's
I
what
wonder
you do.
if you could I wonder how expensive it would be to send it to Shapeways and get it printed.
You just make it so that it's 4 jigsaw pieces with the little tabs. Just you
could
kind of like stamp, slap it together and
hi guys.
Together.
Yeah,
both of you have other things to do.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right, so that's the open bench table, aka the Streacom BC1. That relationship, by the way, Streacom is essentially just like
worldwide distribution, manufacturing, I think.
And it's one of those projects like. If you order it now, they're shipping in May sometime. So it's a small run project. Small runs usually mean higher costs, a little bit more necessary flexibility on your timing. Before we get into the next story, I do have some new patrons. Ken Center with an S, not with a C, pledged $3. Thank you, Ken. Please make Discord. Just pledged $5. Please consider supporting PC perspective and technical content through just pledged $3. And OCD88 just pledged $3. Thank you guys very much. We appreciate it.
Isn't he a bounty hunter from Star Wars?
OCD. Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
I even miss. It's ODC 88.
ODC.
I don't know if that's a little Freudian slip or not, but I don't think I have
if you had OCD, you would have pronounced it right. So
true.
there you go.
Something like that. So again, patreon.com/PCPer if anybody else wants to help us get to that 400 mark tonight. Let's get into the next review. This is from Maury, Gigabyte Z270X Gaming 8. I don't know if I've ever seen an 8 in one of these before. Like an
Usually
even value.
odd numbers,
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
This falls under the Gigabyte's new Aorus brand. Wait a minute. Are those lights between the DIMM slots?
Oh,
Looks like it.
man.
Scroll down just a bit further and just be prepared for excitement.
Diagram.
So now
No.
you
Yeah. Oh,
now you don't need to buy the
going.
RGB.
There you go.
oh, look at the spider web RGBs on the right.
It's nice.
It actually looks pretty cool.
It does.
Yeah, I got to admit, I'm a bit impressed by this one.
And I assume, that's all customizable. Wow. It's got a Bits Power G-Chill hybrid water block, right? So it's you don't have to have water cooling on it for the chipset MOSFETs or for the CPU MOSFETs. Multi-zone light show design.
With RGB fusion.
6 light zones, 8 programmable sections, 8 different lighting effects, 2 RGBW light strip pin headers. All right, that's pretty cool. The RGBs between the DIMM slots, I'm a fan. For no reason that makes sense. So this is a Kaby Lake / Skylake motherboard, depending on what processor you're using. Z270. Your DisplayPort HDMI connections apparently look gold-plated. If you look at let me look at the specifications up here again. Oh, he doesn't have it on the first page. Usually he does. I still like these diagrams. You can see where the Intel Thunderbolt controller is up there. The Mega Chips NCDP 2800. I don't know what that chip does. Anybody? Mega Chips?
No.
It's
No
all
idea.
of the cool stuff.
I don't have all of the chips
So
in the planet memorized.
Here's Maury's pictures that are way more boring without all the LEDs enabled. Jeez. But probably maybe better for scientific and research capabilities. There's a total of 11 power phases on this board, which seems steep for Z270 platforms. Josh, does it say in here how many is that 8 plus 3 probably on this?
I don't know.
All right. Gigabyte has integrated some of those advanced retention PCIe.
Supported with the shroud, like a metal shroud around them.
Yeah. They give them a little bit more shearing strength and stuff like that. That's always good. It's interesting that you can see all the lights in between the. Those have got to be like on the surface of the PCB, not integrated in any way, right?
Yeah, just surface mount.
Yeah, but not like I'm saying is the memory channels are something you can't screw with layer wise, right?
Yeah.
But no, you can set those right on top.
Right.
And
Yeah, they don't usually
Optane
put-
It's just
branding.
interestingly thin.
Oh wait, what?
As well.
Optane brand?
Optane branding, just there above the DIMMs.
No, what? Intel Optane memory ready. Yeah. Just plug it right into that DIMM slot.
No.
Wait, no? Wow, look at this. The board has
Sebastian.
two U.2, 8 SATA, 2 SATA Express, 4 PCIe by 16. That's pretty interesting. By 16, by 8, by 8 by 8, or by 4 by... Wait.
That's confusing.
This PCIe slots can be used in it's by 16, 8 by 8, 844, or 8844.
Okay.
So there you go. And here you can see all the LED lights illuminated a la Mori style, including the you can see
Backplate.
the backplate is illuminated as well. ASUS used to do that a long time ago, but they hadn't done it in a while.
So is that an LED strip being powered by the board? Is
Correct.
That what the point is?
There's
Okay.
2 of those, on there. A lot of the boards are doing it now. So
Cool.
Mori has UEFI features in here, benchmark configurations, does some overclocking as well, of course. This is still considered a preview as another follow-up coming for the review. This is an expensive board, $399. But I mean, when you get those LED strips between your DIMM slots, I don't know what you guys expect, right? I mean, that's got to be...
Hey, they're on some of the Ryzen boards.
Are they really? Kick
Yeah.
ass. Strengths include stock performance, overclocking performance, aesthetics. I would agree with that sentiment. Dual M.2 ports, SATA Express, U.2 ports, dual gigabit Ethernet, 2x2 802.11 AC Wi-Fi. That's a pretty full collection of features with all the
Pretty
RGB
robust.
capability. Yeah. Integrated Thunderbolt 3 support as well. Cool. That's a good mix. Weaknesses, of course, with all that good stuff in there, there's got to be a CMOS battery placement issue.
And it wasn't illuminated.
The CMOS battery? You're right.
Oh,
It
man.
was not.
Yeah.
Should be spotlit so your fat fingers can
So you can find it.
adequately take
know
the
it.
CMOS
It'll be the
battery
only thing
out.
that's lit when the system is completely powered down.
I want like a spring-loaded eject button next to it that just pops it out like straight up in the air. But
And that's how I lost my eye.
we don't always get what we want. So, all right, before we get into the AMD story of the week, another new pledge. Bob Schmidt pledged $5. Thank you,
No
Bob.
Schmidt.
That's why we keep Josh here. Wait, is that why?
No.
So we buried the lead a little bit here, but let's talk about the Radeon RX 580. This is... We posted
It
a
is
video.
redefining the mid-range cards with new technology. The all-new.
I have seen...
The
Radeon.
all new RX 580 V BIOS.
I have...
That's good.
Oh, man.
Oh, dear.
I have seen headlines that say that exact stuff, Josh. That's why it's actually a little bit disconcerting. So the RX 580 is essentially a higher clocked, very slightly improved RX 480. The term rebrand is not out of line for this product launch. It's essentially what it is. It's a little bit overclocked. You know, this could have very easily been an RX 485 and an RX 475 and a 465. I don't know if that's any better or worse than going with RX 580 and 570. But I will say AMD was very upfront about this not being an upgrade for RX 400 series cards. If you have a 480 or a 470, you're not supposed to go to a 580 or 570. If you have...
But if you're on the previous generation.
If you're on an R9 380 class or below, R9 390 is still going to be at this level or pretty close. Anyway.
If you got a GTX 680 like Allyn.
I'm on a 980 now.
Oh, okay.
Who'd you
Then you
steal
don't
that
want.
from?
Then you don't want this product. So
And hey, my poor 7950 just retired today.
It would.
So
580 would have been a great replacement.
the interesting thing here is, so AMD is very, very upfront about like, hey, this is not for people who have R400s. It is instead like the R9 or the R9, the RX 480s are going away.
Yep.
The RX 580s are taking their place. They're going to be our continued combatant against the GTX 10 series, 1060 parts. There just happen to be a little bit higher clocks thanks to slightly refined process techs.
So how well do they combat against the...
I mean, it's not any better, really. Look at the spec page here. These are reference specs. And by the way, I use Polaris 20 here because that's like internally what AMD called it. And I think that's dumb, but that's what they did. So the reference rated clock goes from 1266 to 1340. So less than 80 megahertz difference.
And all the other stuff is the same shaders, same
shader count, same memory options, same memory bus, same memory speed. The only other spec that changes, and pricing is the same, essentially, starting at $199 for 4 gigs, $229, $239 for 8 gigs. The only other spec that changes is the TDP, and it went up, not down.
Yeah.
So the rated TDP of the RX 480 was 150 watts. The rated TDP of the RX 580 at reference settings is 185, 35 watt increase, which is interesting because that is a combination of two things. One, they've increased power consumption a little bit to get better clocks. And two, they were lying about the TDP when the RX 480 launched to begin with.
It drew more than 150.
Yeah, lying is maybe the wrong word to put it, but they were they were exaggerating the efficiency of the product.
And it also drew a little too much from the slot.
Right. So they never really drew 150. It was drawing too much from the slot, and it only had a 6-pin power connector on it. So they were kind of stuck. All of the RX 580s will have an 8-pin power connector. And I think there's some that even have an 8 and a 6 for whatever damn reason.
Well, it's better than overdraw on the slot.
Power.
More is better. Yeah. But an 8-pin lets you get up to, in theory, 225 watts.
Okay.
And be inside all your spec ratings, right? And this is the card they sent us, the MSI Gaming X card. and it's a little bit overclocked. I think it's like 40 or 50 megahertz overclocked over the reference speeds. It is actually drawing over 200 watts in our testing. So it's interesting to think about as let's say, go to the power consumption testing here, and I show you this slide here. The blue line up top is the 580, the orange line in the middle is the 480, and the gray line at the bottom, or in the middle of the thing, but at the bottom of the results, is the GTX 1060 overclocked, like the SC model from EVGA. Right, and so what you can see is that the 580 is definitely using, 30 watts more power, 25 to 30 watts more power than the 480, which is also an overclocked model out of the box. But it's using 80 watts more than the 1060.
Yeah.
So
if you care about your power consumption.
If you care about power consumption, which in instances would be like if you really care about noise, if you care about if you have a compact system where you care about the thermal issues that maybe arise from that type of stuff, you're going to care about 80 watts. 80 watts is significant. 80 watts is another Intel Core i7 processor, essentially. For those of you that don't care about it, then whatever, you just move on. But it's looking at this data, and again, we have this data shows the same thing from Witcher 3. What this shows me is that AMD basically said, okay, screw it. We're not going to try to compete with NVIDIA on power efficiency anymore. When they were stretching to try to get down to that 150 mark, that's what that was. They wanted to stay competitive in that field. When they realized they couldn't,
and just said screw it.
And they realized they can't, they just said, well, screw it at this point. Let's just go the other way. Yeah. Let's get the last 10% of performance we can get, even if it costs us 35% of our power, because at this point, whatever.
Yeah.
Right. And that's fine. Like I don't have any issues with that. And it seems to be a sound answer based on the current state of how, Now
this may sound silly, but can somebody buy this card, and if they did care about power consumption, then pull stuff back, go the other way?
I mean, you could go into Wattman and like turn down the power targets and stuff. You could. Yeah. All that still exists.
Okay.
For sure.
I don't know why you would, but
Yeah, I don't either. So, but what's interesting to note is like we look at, we tested 6 games, 2 resolutions each through all of our frame rating capture based stuff. And if you look at the bottom of like this page of the Dirt Rally, you're getting 3.5 to 4.5% improvement on the 580 over the 480, and that's going to cost you 25 to 30 watts. But the 1060 is 13% faster at 1080p and 6 almost 7% faster at 1440p, and you're going to do that at 80 watts less. So it's giving you an idea of how much power AMD has to use to get, and look at Fallout 4, 4.5 to 7.5% performance gains
to catch up to a 1060.
To try to bridge the gap, even. Yeah. Right. But it still is behind in Fallout 4 by 8 or 6%. Grand Theft Auto is an extreme example. You can see here, I mean, just look at the 1080p graph. This is the green line up top is the 1060, and these two are the 480 and the 580. A huge difference in GTA, 18 to 19%. It's by far the outlier and the exception there. And if you look at something like Hitman, there are 2 games, Hitman and Witcher 3, actually, where if you look at these results, the orange line of the 580 is actually ahead.
Yeah.
Right? So the 580 is 5% faster than the 480 and the 1060 at 1080p. Right? So there are a couple of cases. So I don't think it's... if I had to make a blanket statement, I would still say that the 580 is slower than the 1066 gig.
Right. But not by a whole lot.
Yeah. That exception of GTA being... again, an outlier that I wouldn't really put too much weight in unless you just play GTA 5 all of the time.
Well, could be.
So, but if you care at all about power consumption, whether that be for how much power you're buying to power it, or the heat of your system, or anything else like that, coupled with the fact that the 1060 is also a little bit faster, then that makes a 1060 the right buy, I think. And pricing wise, both this MSI Gaming X and the EVGA card that we tested it against were both supposed to be priced at $249. So in terms of price equality, you don't get anything more exact than that. We have other testing.
There's one thing I know you guys are still trying to figure out how to test.
What's that?
But did you notice that Kyle saw nice drops in reprojection when he was testing the VR with this compared to the previous generation 480s?
I didn't notice it. It kind of makes sense in that if you're right on the edge of performance with a particular game and particular settings, you know, that extra 5% gain you get could cross you over enough that you don't have the reprojections as much. Yep. Right.
It's like a black and white thing. Either you're in time or you're not.
Right.
So,
and the tough thing with VR, with measuring VR performance is, you know, if you have slightly slower processor, that could dip you back down. If you have, you know, a different game that has slightly different settings, or you have one setting off of what Kyle had off, you can go in and out of these states pretty quickly, which makes VR testing not necessarily difficult.
Nightmare?
Well, yeah, but not because it's hard to do, but mostly because it's hard to make a conclusive decision about it, because it's either an A or a B, yes or no.
Either stuff works or it doesn't, or we don't know how close it is to either edge.
Right. And I mean, you can tweak around with it and mess and play and see if you could find those edges. But yeah. So
because overall it was a hard sell. That was like the one thing I saw in reviews that was like, oh, okay, there's something that's going to be noticeable.
But I think if you read Kyle's review, he still says the 1060 is a superior card for VR performance.
Absolutely. Overall, yeah.
So AMD is in a tough spot there. You know, they're in a tough spot in a lot of ways, right? Some people still thought coming into this was going to be a Vega part. Some people we were just hoping for better performance, right? I got asked today, was the 580 the competitor to the Titan XP, right? And like, no, definitely not.
No. But at least we thought that, hey, you know, we've had a year. Maybe they've done some metal layer changes. Maybe they've addressed some of the power consumption stuff. Maybe they have a slightly more mature process that they can lean upon to give us better results than what we're kind of seeing here.
I would say possible. Josh, my honest assessment of this is that because we're talking about the power consumption deltas that we're seeing, and
I'm not saying those things happen.
Okay.
Because obviously they didn't. That's what we were hoping for.
Okay, yes. I would like there's all the I don't think we have a story on it necessarily, but there's all the stuff started today about people being able to BIOS flash their 470 to a 570 and their 480 to a 580. And then people were like, "Oh, well, be careful when you do that because there might be, you know, board changes or you know, the chips might not be able to handle the different power arrangements." I don't
even think it's a different cooler.
Well, the coolers are different from card to card, but like I would bet a lot of money, not everything, but a lot of money that the actual changes to process or any kind of
I do believe there
chip
is
level stuff.
I do believe there is a change to the VRM, the regulator.
The PCB?
Yeah, on the PCB. Because you saw the power draw was nowhere near an issue on the slot now like it was on the 480 even after the fix. In other words, it was drawing a very fixed amount now.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
Like they disconnected completely the slot draw from the.
But they addressed that in firmware.
Yeah, but
with the 480,
they biased it more one way as much as they could with the voltage regulator.
Maybe
right, but if this one's drawing even more power, like.
If it's drawing minimal power through the PCIe slot.
Right, that's my point.
And then overdrawing the 8 pin by
if they were using the same exact, if you took the same exact voltage regulator on a 480 and you tried to get as much power out of it to match this 580, your slot would have gone up proportionally. On the 480.
Unless they just figured out some other way to do it, to disconnect it after more time. But regardless, what I'm trying to say is I don't think they did much, if anything, to this GPU.
There's not a lot.
They mentioned on that slide process technology optimizations. I don't see it because that would tell you, like, if you're going to say we did process optimizations to get more clock speed, you would not also assume that in order to get that clock speed, you also have to use more power. That to me is overclocking, not process improvement.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
it's semantics.
Not necessarily.
Yes.
Because even if you applied that same amount of power to a 480, you may not get that.
Sure.
Your yields and bins may not still hit that point. And so there's a possibility. But again, your envelope is pretty small on these chips. And
I will say, I didn't put the results in here because I didn't have time to really spend doing it that I wanted to report a bunch on it. But I did do some overclocking with my 580, and I couldn't really get any more than 3% overclock out of it.
Was that over the already
overclocked settings. Yes,
which was like
40 megahertz over the stock. Looking at percentage wise,
yeah. So that was like a 1 or 2%.
So it went from 1340 to 1393 was the out of box, and then I could get 3% more over that. So maybe you're talking about 10,
4 or 5. Oh,
10 total.
Okay,
maybe.
I mean, that's decent.
Less than that, because it's 50 plus. Yeah, I don't know.
It's probably like 7 or 8.
Probably like 7. So, but the RX 40 was never a great overclocker in that regard either. So that's the RX 580. I have more testing to do. I have a 570 that we're doing benchmarking on in the competitive cards, and then I think they're going to send me a 550, which is on the last slide here. Is a brand new chip. It is a new product. It's a sub $80 video card meant to replace IGP. If you have an Intel integrated graphics system, this is the card you use. It doesn't require any external power. You know, it does 4K encode, decode.
It's not hard to replace IGP.
To be better than, you mean? Yeah. You know,
So
I get you.
really
Not hard.
750 Ti.
So the hybrid Crossfire is going away? Because I'm assuming that's not doing hybrid Crossfire.
Oh, well, this is meant to replace Intel integrated graphics.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's still faster than, I don't know. I'm gonna say yes, and I hope so. So we'll say that. All right. So what's next on our list? The Dan case. The Dan case. The A4 SFX. This project was crowdfunded. Maybe I was confusing this.
We've talked about this case before, right?
I think we have, but
like
Sebastian finally got one in, and we got one in because a reader/viewer had gotten one through the Kickstarter and sent it to Sebastian to test before he built his system.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the best part about it is Sebastian kicked it down his stairs to see how hefty and well built it was. It only has suffered a couple of dents, so don't worry, dude.
After Ace Ventura delivered it.
Yeah. So this was I don't know if this was a crowdsourced, but it was crowdfunded campaign for this super small Mini-ITX chassis. I even hesitate to call it that. It does require Mini-ITX motherboard, an SFX or SFXL power supply. Still supports 3 2.5-inch drives. You know, full-size graphics card, although you do have to have a low-profile CPU cooler no more than 48 millimeters high to get that to work.
And Noctua's got a few of those.
Yeah. So here's a couple of pictures of the outside of it, and it's nice looking. A lot of perforation in order to get airflow into this beast, but it really doesn't start to get impressive until you start putting things in it. It's got those those pull release push latch doors on it, which I do like. This is the side you install the motherboard. This is the inside you install the video card. It has a ribbon cable that goes under a plate and mounts in the system. So let's get into the build. There we go. So there's your Mini-ITX motherboard mounted in there with a cryo rig, a low profile cooler.
So you can run a bigger cooler if you leave the side of the case off.
Yeah. Yes, if you don't need the side of the case, you can have any height cooler you want. That's a good point. But here is like an old 290X XFX graphics card, a 295 millimeter GPU length is permitted. And he says there's plenty of space. I don't know if I'd say plenty of extra space. If you had...
Can you fit one of those 2.5 slot cooler cards in there? You know what I mean?
Like Ghost Rider.
I'm going to say no.
Not without
The
cutting the
case is
blower
full.
in it again.
Oh. I just can't tell if it's
here's
sitting
how you
flush
mount
or not.
the SSDs. It's pretty neat. Stack those baby piggyback
That's
style.
A
hot.
sandwich.
Yeah, it is.
Hey, that's stacked RAM.
The
Or
SFX,
stacked
yeah, stacked NAND. The power supply, you know, it's a stretch, right? For especially for an SFXL power supply, getting all the things. The good thing is they usually come with flat ribbon cables. So in terms of like, look at this, fully populated.
That's really all jammed in
rig.
there.
That's tight.
It's really hard to imagine any system getting smaller with off-the-shelf components.
Well, look at how
But it
narrow.
looks so much easier to work with than some of the older tiny enclosures.
Oh yeah,
Where you actually had to get your hands in there and
Like, look
you
at
ended up
that.
losing a half a
That
liter
is-
of blood.
That is seriously narrow.
So yeah, this overhead view, you can see the video card on the bottom, the ribbon cable to the motherboard at the top, the power supply at the top right. Yeah, you really, you don't have any more space.
Yeah. There really is no more getting anything in there.
Sebastian tested it with a 6600K Z170 EVGA Stinger Mini-ITX board and that 290X. And
you know what he didn't tell you in this? He had to route the cables with a rubber mallet. I heard Allyn.
Yeah, no, he got it. Plus, look at the stunning photography. So, yeah, no, it does not fit a 2.5 slot cooler in any capacity. But, having the perforation right there does allow you to use, you don't have to have a blower style cooler on your GPU, which is nice. You can help keep things a little bit quieter, but by still being able to draw air in. So
that's just a really, really small case.
It is. Now, the problem is you can't buy it.
Oh.
So that is problematic. When you go to the website, they list Overclockers UK, one other place, and Kickstarter. This Kickstarter campaign's well over. Overclockers UK says in stock January 10th, 2017.
Oh.
And the other one I didn't look at. So it's really hard to find. I don't know if they're planning on another run of these or what. I know they were pretty expensive. I think they were I'm gonna have to look. I want to say they were $300 for it. But again, small run type product.
Pretty nice case still.
Yeah.
How well does it skip across the lake?
I can have Sebastian find out before he sends it back to the guy.
That's how he's going to get it back to him.
The Dan Cases A4 SFX. Pretty neat product. It's cool that this is crowdfunded. I want to say it was this one or was it the N case that people were putting the plans into forums and asking for feedback and putting the 3D models out. I think it was the N case because I always had the fake Coke can next to it for the size presentation. But I do like the idea of kind of somebody in the community saying, hey, all your crap is awful, I can do better, and then actually doing a thing and making it better.
I do wish it was a little more available than it is, but
agreed.
Yeah.
Real quick, we're going to touch on cell phone coverage here. T-Mobile is doing some LTE additions. This bright pink representation of the United States of America.
Look at that Gulf of Mexico coverage.
America.
That is. Look at that 20 megahertz coverage throughout the entire
Gulf.
Gulf.
That's not just an oil spill?
It could be. You never know.
This coverage brought to you by BP.
Ken, what in the hell did T-Mobile spend $7.99 billion on exactly?
I mean, nothing technically, I guess.
Air.
Yeah. License to Spectrum.
It's an $8 billion licensing fee is what you're telling me.
Yeah.
What's the goal out of this?
Better coverage?
Yeah, but is it gigabit LTE? Does it really matter? Is this giving them the flexibility to do more carrier aggregation to get those higher speeds? Why would they spend $8 billion on it?
Well, because they don't have the best network in America yet. So T-Mobile, I forget the exact frequency range they currently operate their LTE network on, but it's somewhere in the 1.7 gigahertz range, I think. Whereas AT&T and Verizon, who have the two best networks in America, as according to most tests and the widest coverage in the middle of nowhere, operate on the 700 megahertz spectrum. So there's a big difference between 700 megahertz and 1700 megahertz.
Yes,
mainly that
it goes further.
It goes way further for the same amount of power.
Yeah.
So
it goes through walls better.
And it penetrates walls very well. And guess what? 600 megahertz does that a little better than 700 megahertz because it's a smaller.
Yeah.
It's
longer.
It's a longer frequency.
Wavelength.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
So essentially, T-Mobile, the FCC was having a auction for spectrum in the 600 megahertz range.
That's what I do on my weekends. I auction off spectrum in my house.
And T-Mobile won 45% of the spectrum they were auctioning off. And their claim is that they won spectrum essentially in every single square inch of the country.
Sweet.
Because this is a spectrum that was being used for analog TV, wasn't being used for broadband. So it kind of had the rollout and the capability to go everywhere. And they're hoping to take advantage of that.
So do we know which versions of which cell radios can even...
None. Oh. No cell radios can talk at 600 megahertz right now.
Oh.
Qualcomm announced the...
Ryan throws his phone in the garbage.
Announced the the X20 in February. I think
there's going to be a dongle available for that via Apple.
Oh, I see.
Just add-on modem.
It's wireless though.
You'll plug it into the headphone jack, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Isn't there
essentially,
like a military spectrum too, and 600 megahertz?
I don't know. I know that
I would tell you, but I don't know.
some broadcasters,
OTA cable stuff.
broadcasters actually got a cut of the earnings from this Spectrum auction because
Like
they were the ones that the
broadcasters?
Spectrum. Yeah, they were the one that the Spectrum was being taken away from. So they actually got a small little cut of things.
Eat it. Oh, damn it.
Here's your $20, NBC.
But if you look at that second map, that is what T-Mobile says they will be able to do with the Spectrum by the end of 2017 in some sort of rollout.
Where's the map of the phones that you can use it with,
Exactly.
with no red on it?
We don't have a date for when the X20 modem or any other modem that supports 600 megahertz is supposed to be out. This auction was planned originally in 2014, so you would imagine that there'd be some sort of timing here. Like everyone knew the timeline of when the Spectrum was going to be auctioned and available to be rolled out. So,
And oddly enough, NVIDIA Icera actually developed for this.
really?
No.
Oh,
You're such an ass.
yeah, you are. Programmable modems. It's the wave of the future.
That would have been nice.
Not.
I
mean,
Come
you're
on,
talking-
software-defined modems. You can reprogram them on the fly.
You can only take a software-defined radio so far when you drop all the way down to 600 megahertz.
Josh is literally the only person in the world that remembers Icera.
Can you software program antenna cable?
You, in a very roundabout way.
Oh, really?
Antenna length, you can artificially
Just keep turning
manipulate.
transistors on and off until you get the appropriate length.
Yeah, I mean,
Think about it.
you can make an antenna that's segmented that you can turn on different sections.
Yeah,
of.
okay. Yeah.
I don't think that's how it works.
No, that's
You
not how
can,
that works.
you can do it. They're not doing it now. Like,
Yeah.
and even if they were,
I could think of a mechanical way to do
even
it.
if they wouldn't be making it long enough to be a fraction of the wavelength of 600 because nobody was going that low before.
Yeah. Ericon in the chat tells me that T-Mobile has 800 and 850 megahertz LTE currently.
Yeah.
So this definitely still helps. It's mostly a new range of spectrum being kind of made available, and T-Mobile bought up 45% of it. So that's a pretty strong play as far as the future.
Where'd they get all this money? Where'd they get $8 billion?
I'm sorry, I miss
Deutsche
rabbit ears
Telekom.
antennas. If somebody's calling me and I pull out a phone and I pull out a 2.5-foot antenna, I'm feeling like the
They know
boss.
you mean business.
Whack that out.
I miss those, man.
I bet if you look on Amazon or on eBay, you can find an accessory
Somebody's got
for that.
that.
It's just like you glue to the back of your iPhone and you pull it
just
out.
lets you pull the thing
and
out?
then you
Yeah.
just pretend
You just
like
put it in the headphone jack.
Oh.
And then my kids go ahead and bend it.
Yeah, well, of course.
You're holding it wrong.
Yeah.
That's what you do.
So we're getting the Nokia brick phone back. So why
We're
not?
not in North America.
Yeah.
They're not bringing it out here?
No.
It's not going to work on any network here, I don't think.
Oh, I was so looking forward to that.
Of course you were.
You can import.
Well, you
one.
can still get one. It just won't work.
Yeah.
That's good enough for
You
me.
can use it for all the other features.
I can look at it. Play
You
Snake.
can use it as a hammer. There's many fine uses for that phone.
All right, let's move on. Intel rumors, guys. So we were wondering what Intel's reactions might be to the pretty successful Ryzen launch, right? Not that it was completely problem-free, but that it got a lot of excitement, it got a lot of attention, it got a lot of purchases. I don't know how continual that has been. I don't know how continual those purchases have been in terms of people building systems on it. But the launch of the R7 and the R5, I keep saying that, but that's not really true. The Ryzen 7 and the Ryzen 5 processors was pretty successful. What was Intel's reaction going to be? Was it going to be lower prices? We're going to buy one, get one free sale on 7700Ks? None of that has happened. We haven't seen really any price drops of any consistency.
So they're just going to launch more expensive stuff?
Here's what I've always said. I've always said Intel has two options. They drop prices on their current product family, or they wait for the next product family and subtly reduce prices then after you EOL things, right? And so you got to keep in mind, Intel's a big enough company. They don't really give a shit what we think.
Yeah.
They care what investors and Wall Street thinks. And if you're suddenly dropping prices because of some competitor that really has had zero impact on your life for the last decade, 5 years at least, that's going to start to scare people. But if you can tie it in with something else, if you can make it like, hey, we've been able to, as it turns out, we've increased our capacity to X and our efficiency to Y. Because of that, we can offer better value to our customers, right? Mm-hmm. And you wrap that into a 8th generation processor release, then it's a better story. And then at the same time, they're hitting the other side of the coin, which is people like us who are looking at performance per dollar and consumer builds and enthusiast builds and all that type of stuff. So it appears there's another story out on Digitimes that you could debate the veracity of the timing. Is this new news or not? But it appears that they're bringing in Coffee Lake and Basin Falls. Intel is the best at code names, like by far the best.
I think they
just
just ran out of code names.
Yeah,
they just throw darts at a map.
So Coffee Lake sounds like a CPU.
As long as it's got a water feature, it's good.
Coffee Lake sounds like a CPU. Is Basin Falls the chipset?
Coffee Lake is another 14 nanometer processor.
It's an extension of Kaby Lake.
Is it a talk now?
It was TikTok optimized.
XX.
It was TikTok optimized. Now,
what's this one?
It's process tech is hard.
It's 14 plus, isn't it?
I don't even know officially
so it
what
was
they're
a
calling
waltz.
it.
Now it's a square dance. Like,
what was a waltz?
Yeah, because it was.
It's a
3.
samba.
It was by 3s.
Oh, waltz is a 3-step thing.
I thought.
I didn't take ballroom dancing.
Neither did I.
So Coffee Lake is supposed to be the 8th generation. It was originally like a
Q1 2018.
Late 2017, Q1 2018 thing. Intel put out a tweet in February that said it was going to be expected in the second half of 2017, and now the information from Digitimes is saying August.
I mean, that's
which is pretty early considering we didn't get when did we do our 7700K review?
Was it October?
Later
last
than
year?
that.
January of 2017, wasn't it?
Really?
That sounds right.
No, it can't be.
January 3rd, 2017.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Where's Niche?
Yeah, because it launched at CES. The processor reviews launched at CES. Now, if you want to look at notebook, Kaby Lake.
It's like October-ish.
I think that was in, let's see, November. I posted a Kaby Lake. So I think they were probably out in the 1st of November, maybe late October.
Yeah.
But I posted a Kaby Lake notebook performance story on November of 2016. So, if Coffee Lake is launching for desktop parts in August, that's pretty quick. That's 8 months from release of Kaby Lake to Coffee Lake.
Yeah, they're not getting their money's worth out of Kaby Lake.
I mean, they
what else
are
is there to change?
but they're getting their money's worth on the notebook side, which is a large market because they'll hit back to school again.
If they release, the key is I don't really know from this report whether or not they're talking about desktop or mobile. And in the last 2 generations, it's been mobile first and then desktop later.
Yeah.
If they do that here, then yes, they could do that with August. But that's not where the competition is.
No.
Intel still doesn't have any competition in the notebook market, and they won't for a while.
Right.
Intel or AMD?
I'm sorry. Intel doesn't have any competition.
No, AMD.
No. Intel,
they have no competition. Okay.
Yeah, AMD is no competition.
AMD has no competing port.
There you go.
English is hard for me.
No.
So it really comes down to are they doing it to bring in everything and then that's fine.
So they can lower the prices on the
or are they
7th gen
doing it
stuff?
as a let's address the Ryzen issue and bring in Coffee Lake desktop? Because Kaby Lake,
I mean, unless it lets them sell parts more cheaply or with more cores, or maybe they just turn hyperthreading on all the parts or something, or
I mean, they could do that too. It would so.
Hey, Allyn, look up how much a 4790, an i7 4790 costs right now.
4790.
You can't buy one.
Well,
which one is that?
Can, but it's
You can't
it's
buy
the
one. Why
previous
can you buy one?
generation i7? No, it's $336 or so.
407 on Newegg. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it's
362.
And that's only
Intel does not
what is that?
lower prices.
Well,
Yeah. So
And it's a third-party seller selling this CPU. Like it's new old stock at this point.
Yeah,
but the point he's saying is they never drop prices. They just stop selling them.
yeah. What's like
Which is exactly what
look
NVIDIA
what a
does from generation to
6700K
generation.
costs.
what's a 6700?
That one you won't be able. That one I doubt you find like a new one from a reputable vendor.
Oh,
would be my guess.
$308.
But the point is, if they come out with Coffee Lake and they say, "Oh, now all Core i5s have hyperthreading enabled instead," and they're $20 to $30 cheaper than they were last time, right? Then there you go.
Yeah,
that's your answer.
But then how do you have a difference between an i5 and an i7?
I don't know.
I mean, they don't on some of the mobile side.
Right. Maybe they just make that decision across the board, right? Everything's
honestly,
Core
I
i5,
think that
Core i7.
hyper-threading on and off thing is a crock of crap anyway. So
I mean, whatever. It's
a long tradition of raining on each other's parades as well.
Yes, correct.
All of a sudden, Intel, there's a new Intel part coming out. Maybe I won't go with the Ryzen quite yet. I want to see what's going to happen 3 months down the road.
It's just one of the things
so even if they don't sell a damn thing, AMD
but
still loses sales.
But I mean, if they've already optimized this round, like, how much more are you going to possibly squeeze out of the thing?
I mean, but here's the thing. Like, I don't know.
Possible.
Keep in mind that their TDPs are relatively low still. Yeah. If you compare it to the actual like power draw of Ryzen, they still have headroom. If they said, okay, fine, you guys are good with drawing 140 watts, F you. Here's a 4.8 gigahertz to 5.2 gigahertz Intel Coffee Lake.
That draws the same or something.
That draws the same amount of power.
So,
right? They could. That's what I'm saying. You're saying, what else could they do? And I'm saying they could do a lot now that they have competition to be pushed to that.
Yeah.
Whereas before they didn't have it.
Yeah.
Apparently there was a rumor that I didn't see when it happened that the chat pointed me to that the Coffee Lake i7 high end will be 6 cores.
Okay. That would be the other thing they could do. But they also.
Yeah, but at what cost?
Probably the same cost as the current i7 because they know they have to be price competitive, so they just slide in a 6-core part.
You're saying potentially a $350 6-core part.
That's what I would expect.
But I mean, AMD has $350 8-core parts.
True.
It's less IPC per core, so Intel could still make up the difference there.
Yep.
The other part of the rumor was the Basin Falls stuff, which is Skylake X, Kaby Lake X, which is the
X299
HEDT high performance desktop parts, right? X299 chipset, and that they're expecting that around June. Which would be
Computex
6, 8, 10,
and E3,
and a rumored 12-core part as well on the super high-end stuff.
So is there a replacement for X99?
I wonder if they ditch the 6.
Right. Is there a replacement for X99?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
What is it called?
X299.
Basin.
That's what it's going to be called?
Yeah.
It's the chipset. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they skipped 199.
Correct.
Because they'd afraid Johnny Shee would come in.
Yeah, someone's already got that one, Josh.
So the interesting thing about that is, they may be bringing up the 6, 8, and 10, or the 4, 6, 8, 10. Yeah. There's rumors that they're going to add a 4 to that line. That they would be adding a 4-core to that line in order to offer an option that has more
connectivity,
more PCIe, all that stuff, but still bring it down to like a $300-something price point at 4 cores. Right. So if you care about multi-GPU, if you care about 2 PCIe SSDs, you care about these types of things.
Yeah, but it's a more expensive platform.
Well, it doesn't have to be.
It's
all based on what they decide.
Yeah.
Right? They decide what the chipset costs.
Yeah.
They decide, if they sell a $50 chipset instead of a $90 chipset, that's going to go into $40 to $50 less expensive motherboards, maybe more.
But if there isn't a price differentiation on a 4-core part and there's not one on the chipset, then why do they have 2 lines at that point?
I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. And then they have a 12-core part. Now you get into, the 10-core part currently sells for $1,700.
Probably not going to do that this time.
You can't do that this time.
That's expensive at half the price.
Right, exactly. You can't make that mistake again. Now,
I don't think it was a mistake.
It was.
I don't think it was.
To sell the 10-core part for $1,700.
I think they probably sold a surprising amount of those,
I'm sure
you would
they did.
weep at the number they sold.
It doesn't mean I agree with it.
I mean, it was the most number you can get on a regular desktop
their
part
8-core
right?
was like that when it first launched at 8 cores too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and it was $1,000 then.
Yeah.
So whatever. That's neither here nor there. That's in the past. But I'm interested now, like maybe this summer and fall is going to be like really effing busy with Intel parts. Maybe. And I would like to see it. And AMD doesn't want to see it. AMD wants to have this perception of value and performance capability and high threadedness be their advantage to go through as long as they possibly can. Mm-hmm. So
not to mention about 10% higher margins for AMD for these parts in average. Yeah.
wouldn't it be nice to not be able to predict the CPU market 3 years out? Because, I mean, like, we've been able to do that.
Yes.
Like, oh, hey, we'll get
That's true.
like 10% IPC boost every year for the same price.
Well, now we're not going to know if there's
10%
going
is
to be.
high. Let's go with like 5.
Now we're not going to know if there's going to be 3 versions on the same node or 4 versions on the same node going forward.
Do you know the last time that Intel has changed its roadmap this drastically due to AMD?
Well,
has it ever happened?
Athlon?
Yes. No,
yeah.
not Athlon.
Not Athlon? Really?
Nope.
Athlon 64?
Nope.
Your butt.
Phenom 2?
No.
Was that the K6 2, maybe?
No, just the K6.
The original K6?
Oh,
The original
I don't
K6.
think they had roadmaps back then.
Intel drug it in about 6 months because of the K6.
I believe
They didn't
you.
even have a chipset for that. They got the old
guess.
440FX chipset that they
Was that the one that
were able to.
was that the one that went 64-bit, or is that way after that?
No,
that was
that was
way
like
after.
1997.
Okay.
This was when they moved.
K6.
This is when they pulled the Pentium Pro and put it on the consumer line, wasn't it?
Well,
With the
it was the
54C.
Pentium 2. The Pentium 2 got dragged back. Originally, Pentium 2, they were just stocking it up. They were going to release it in fall of that year, and they were going to have a brand new chipset, the 440LX, which would have AGP and some of the latest,
old
ATA
AGP.
33 at the time. And K6 came out. A month later, the Pentium 2 came out, but they didn't. The chipset and motherboards were not ready yet.
Pentium 2
They were able to get.
was slot 1, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, slot 1.
I remember hunting high and low all across all of the internet for the SL2W8 version, which was the one that you could easily overclock. You changed the frontside bus from 66 to 100, and it wouldn't even flinch. It would just run at 450 megahertz instead of 300. It was like just one specific line of it was known to be able to do
One
that.
other thing for me to mention on Intel real fast is they announced they were canceling IDF,
Yeah.
yes, they did.
which kind of just blew my mind.
They've got so much work to do now that they moved up these processors. They can't have no conference.
We ain't got no time for no damn conference.
It was interesting, right? Because I had always said over the last 12 years, 13 years, however long I've been going to it, that
Well, it started 20 years ago.
I didn't go to it that long, but like IDF was always my favorite show because they always had the right people to talk to. Like they always had the engineers there. They always had like the highly technical people there to talk to you.
Yeah.
They did their architecture breakdowns there. Now, I will say in recent years, there has been a little bit less of that because their cadence of releases have slowed. Kaby Lake, they didn't really talk about because what the hell are they going to talk about? There wasn't a whole lot different. But it was still good to go there, meet with the performance teams, meet with the development teams, meet with the platform teams. You met with the storage guys there.
Mm-hmm.
There were drone people.
There were like Microsoft storage guys there that I was talking to, like showing like their NVMe driver in a booth, and I was talking like low level NVMe tech with like Microsoft guys, like people working on the code. Right?
And it was for me, it was a very valuable show for that. And so I'm a little surprised that they would just like cut it, especially
and do it late too.
Yeah, like it would normally have been in late August.
No, I mean like they just said that they weren't going to do it. Like,
no, I know that's
if
what
you were going to cancel it, like,
well, because we knew that China
the show
was
would normally
not
have
gonna
been.
happen.
Yes, we knew that the IDF
Shenzhen
China
would be now.
But that's a relatively new show compared to
San Fran,
the original one.
I guess if they canceled China, you can't use this excuse. But to be like totally like not looking into like they have IDF in Moscone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Moscone's undergoing renovation this year, which is why like a bunch of conferences moved to San Jose.
But they pretty much said in their press release that like we don't see a vision for this going forward, and we're going to change the way we message and discuss and all that type of stuff. Right? They didn't just say we're not having it this year. Blank. It was we don't think it's valuable to us.
We're too diverse. We've got the Internet of Crap and networking.
There's a lot of that as part of it that I won't be sad to see go. And I will say, like, the keynotes you used to go to and get, like, real information from. And then recently they did, they gave you IoT watches that didn't have any Intel hardware in them that flash lights in time with music or some bullshit. They had drones and they had guys on BMX bikes doing tricks and showing you how their accelerometers computed in the cloud and
processors
crap
just aren't
like that,
sexy anymore,
right?
Yeah.
And they kind of stopped using it as a developer focused thing. Like, here's our architecture. Here's how you program to our
it turned
architecture.
into big time IoT.
Yeah, and that was more of a corporate direction shift, and IDF was meant to follow that.
Yeah.
But I'm sad to see it go, and I have some interesting thoughts that I may jot down at some point as to like what that means. Do I think it has anything to do with AMD? No, I do
don't
not
think that's connected.
Right? Do I think it has something to do with the fact that they don't have anything interesting, necessarily super interesting to show on a yearly cadence? Architecturally, yes. I think that's a part of it. They don't have this tentpole flag.
So here's what's
put in
funny.
the ground.
I'm inclined to say, oh, but Optane. However, look at how much press there has been.
Oh, you mean the bungled launch of Optane?
You mean how many times they've announced it over and over again?
Well, yeah, how many times they've announced it over and over again, and there's been leaks too, and like all this other like.
Is it out yet? I've lost track.
You know,
it's been announced twice.
Oh, more than twice.
It'll be here soon.
more than twice.
So, I mean, they basically said we're going to pursue other methods of information distribution. We have our website; it's great, don't you think? Things like that.
I guess.
So we'll see. And like I said, I may have some more thoughts on why I did. I don't know. I'm sure it cost them $3 or $4 million to host it every year, but whatever. You make billions of dollars a quarter, so it's tough for me to feel sorry for you.
They find that in their couch.
Indeed. All right. I didn't even know we had a post on this, Jeremy. The Tinker Board.
It's true. I did tinker with this earlier.
What is it?
So, it's a very crowded market lately because I was thinking it's like the Raspberry Pi or Arduino, or there are so many out there right now. I couldn't even think of Intel's off the top of my head.
Galileo?
Yeah, it is the Galileo.
I think so.
Yeah.
But so the ASUS Tinker Board is another one of these. It's a Debian-based OS, which they call, strangely, Tinker OS. But it's Rockchip, who we've seen a couple of different places. But so it's a 4-core ARM Cortex A17. They're running at about 1.8 gigahertz with a Mali T764, which you've seen in just about everything under the bloody sun. And it's another Shield board where you can program whatever you want it to do. It's got Wi-Fi, it's got a NIC, it's got HDMI out, GPIO ports, or 40-pin GPIO header, 15-pin MIPI DSI or CSI. So essentially, if you're looking at building a little system, this is yet another way that you can do it. It's well put together. Like we've pretty much got down how to design one of these little single board systems. So, I mean, if you're just thinking about delving in, or if you're a big fan of it and you're looking for something new to do, this thing is supposedly $54.99. It seems to be selling for about $60 right now, but it's decent. It's going to do what you need it to do.
Maybe.
More or less.
Well, we've definitely talked about this before when they hadn't when they hadn't announced it for North America yet. But the reason
this is the North American announcement.
Yeah, the reason the Raspberry Pi is so successful is kind of catch-22. It's so successful because there's a bunch of software support for it.
Well, they were first for really breaking out of the little Arduino.
Well, I mean, it's a completely separate thing than Arduino. This is a computer as opposed to a microcontroller.
Yeah, fair enough. But
I mean, it does have GPIO available to use for a similar purpose, but there are a bunch of boards like these that are coming out of China that are more powerful than Raspberry Pis, but aren't successful because they don't get the software support, because they're not the Raspberry Pi. So it's kind of a weird catch-22 there, and it'll be interesting to see if ASUS can kind of spur that and stay up on kernel development and all of that stuff, because when you're dealing with trying to run something like Ubuntu on these ARM SoCs, they need a lot of customization and a lot of different, like, sometimes proprietary drivers.
You've got your own already modified Linux base.
Sure, but what if I don't want to run Debian?
Well, guess what?
Why
get something
wouldn't you
else.
want to run Debian?
If I buy a Pi, I can run a host of other
Yes.
Linux distros on it.
And this one will do Android. I think
cool.
it's an Android shell on top.
That's
But
interesting.
still, that's enough to attract a lot of people who are already developing for Android.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see if this one takes off, or if it's just the market's hit sort of a saturation point where it's not easy to sell yet another one of these devices and get the following you need for it to become very big.
Yeah, I think it's cool that ASUS is doing this, and I think if anyone has a chance of doing this, it's ASUS, not Orange Pi or Odroid or random companies like this. I think ASUS could get behind it.
Orange Pi, you say?
Will this just be one of their little side things that they dip their toe into and never touch again, or are they actually committed to it? Is the question.
And yes, dudes, I'm pretty sure it could run UT 2004.
Oh
You
man,
need to port it, but I bet you it could.
Ooh, that GPU though.
Well, come on. You might only hit 60 frames.
UT99 at the very least.
All right. Let's see. Oh, before we get to our next story, I got two more patrons here. James Stewart edited their pledge from $3 to $5.
When I was a young man, your grandma used to call me Pinhead.
All right.
Anyway,
I'm sorry, you never seen that Campbell soup commercial with Jimmy Stewart?
Yes, I've seen the Campbell's soup commercial.
no, I haven't.
You might be
too.
dating yourself, Josh.
I am. Well, I'm not dating myself, but I am aging
Gross.
myself.
It's the only person that would date him.
Cliff,
Exactly.
Cliff Shoemake. I don't know if he forgot the R. I would assume it was Shoemaker, but Cliff Shoemake is a new contributor who pledged $5.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cliff. We appreciate it. That brings us up to, with our last two stories here, I think we're at 398 patrons.
398
away. Still 2 away.
So close.
Putting it out there. All right, our last news story of the evening: Logitech G413 mechanical keyboard, or G413, depending on, I don't know, your enunciation guidelines. This is a mechanical gaming keyboard using the Romer G switches, which are a Logitech design. They only exist on Logitech keyboards. I don't remember when they first launched. Was it Logitech G910? Because that's the keyboard I use that has
it might
them.
be earlier than that.
I think they might have had one before that. This was the competition to Cherry before Cherries started selling to
Patents
everybody
expired.
and their patents expired and all that type of stuff. It is a
Aluminium.
well, yes, the plate itself
Practice that
is
one.
aluminum. Oh yeah, sorry, I'm going to London next week. Aluminium. But the switches themselves, what do they claim? Are 25% faster actuation than standard mechanical keys. But I like them as a really good balance between the sound quality the sound noise of switches that I hear in this room.
Mm-hmm.
Not to name any names, but in this room, versus the typing feel and quality that we have as well. So I really like the G910 that I use. This is kind of a little bit more budget friendly, kind of a sleeker design, not as gamey of a design. It's not RGB. It's only single color.
But look at those keycaps.
So here's the thing. These keycaps are faceted, right? 1, 2, 3, QWER, ASD. But those are the only ones that come that way. Well, let me rephrase that. Out of the box, it has no faceted keycaps.
Okay.
It comes with replacements for 1, 2, 3, QWER, and ASD to be faceted. The faceted one is supposed to be a little bit better for gaming because it gives your fingers a place to rest in, like a little bucket to rest in.
I think it's more than just 1, 2, 3.
Maybe it is. I mean,
it's at least 4.
I've got the damn thing sitting here on this desk. I could open it up and see.
Do they have the faceted keys in the picture?
They may.
picture's kinda cut off.
On the
the
box,
front.
you mean? No, there are no faceted keys on the picture.
Okay.
But it does come with replacement facets, or faceted keys. But I'll only pull these out of here.
By the way, you
hold
were
this.
right that the G910 was the first.
It was
they're
the
in here.
first. So it's got you can't really see it on this video. It's not worth trying to show you. It's too dark anyway. It's got a brushed aluminum top.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay.
I guess like
QWERASD.
changing guns and FPSs and stuff.
Right.
Makes sense.
The idea is if you like the way the faceted
Abilities
keys
and
feel,
MOBAs.
you can make your primary gaming keys like that. But you don't have to if you don't want to. I personally like it even for just typing, but apparently some people don't like it for typing, so they wanted to make that an option.
Well, I just wouldn't like it being inconsistent. Like for typing.
I would agree with that.
Like I wouldn't want just
maybe.
like a few
that's
keys
true.
on my left hand being faceted and the rest not. That'd be like kind of weird.
Gamers don't type words.
Yeah, they don't type words.
GG no re.
Yeah,
Exactly.
GG.
GG no re.
FU. It has USB. It has full power USB pass through. It is a. If you look at the back of it, is that what you're looking at?
What's with the like? There's like a little horseshoe there, which looks like it might be a cable.
Let me zoom in here.
Like holder.
Yeah. So.
But then there's a one that goes all the way down.
So this one, the big long one, is for your headphone cable.
Oh.
If you have a headphone cable, you can pass it underneath your keyboard
Okay.
without it being,
Yeah.
out of the way. And then this
what's
is
the other one? Just-
mouse. What do they call it? Like the mouse thing that like holds the cable so it doesn't slide all the way down behind your desk.
Yeah.
Cable bungee.
Yeah, like it's a mouse cable bungee,
Okay.
right? And you just kind of put it around however long you want to leave how much slack you want for your mouse
Yeah, that's cool.
cable, and it'll do that.
So,
Yeah.
well, you said USB pass through, but how many?
One.
Just one USB port. Okay, so
One USB port on the keyboard, two cables off the back.
yeah.
Well, one cable that splits or whatever.
So your headset has to be plugged into your main PC. It doesn't like branch off of the keyboard or anything.
You mean like an analog headset?
No, like a USB
I mean, you can plug your
it into the
USB headset
keyboard.
into it.
instead of the mouse.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. Like you're going to use the USB for the mouse. I just didn't know if there was two.
Well, sure. You don't have to use the USB for the mouse, but yeah. I mean, if you're using USB for the mouse, you probably wouldn't need that mouse bungee thing. Maybe you would. I don't know. Depends on what you want to set up. It still has programmable macro keys, USB pass-through. We talk about aluminum, aircraft grade aluminum alloy, precision
term
key
so
lighting.
much.
Yeah,
Does
I
it
know.
save the dang macros on the keyboard now? Finally?
Use LGS software to program custom functions and macro commands on F1. Execute complex commands. I know it does on
I'd
some of
be
their
shocked
mice,
if
but
there
not on the
wasn't local
keyboards.
memory.
Yeah, the
You'd be
mice
shocked
have.
that there was or was not.
Was not. It's
know.
becoming very common nowadays.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
The interesting thing about this keyboard is it's $89.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, for mechanical switches.
It's just red LED lighting. Right?
Correct.
Yeah, that's
Correct. Yeah, no RGB on this because of the low cost.
Yeah.
It's got Romer G switches. I really like the keyboards. Like I said, I've been using the G910 on my desk for a long time. I just did it as like an experiment. I replaced one of my previous keyboard. It's like, oh, I like this. It compared to this, that has dedicated media function keys. This has them built into the function keys up top. You hold down the function button and do that. But yeah, that just announced and started shipping out now. The G413, G413, $89. Pretty reasonably priced for a
mechanical
and
backlit
keyboard. Yes, mechanical and backlit. All right. So let's get into our hardware software picks of the week, which apparently we're not open on this. So let me go ahead and do that. My pick is probably the best hardware pick that's ever existed on this show.
Is it made by Hitachi?
Close.
The funniest thing about this is that
Strangely,
a
it's
half
not
an
a
hour,
Zune either.
a half an hour before you posted
you gotta wait.
I'm not going to say what it is.
You gotta
but
wait for. You can't tell the story.
I'm not.
Go ahead.
But a half an hour before you
It's
posted
PC
that,
Magazine.
I plugged this in to my desktop. So now you can.
You know
talk
what I'm
about it.
saying?
But we're talking about two different things now.
Oh yeah, we are. You're talking about the other thing on that page.
Yeah.
Okay.
Never mind.
You go for it.
Ellen ruined it.
I'm so confused.
So for some reason, I saw somebody on Twitter post about it was the anniversary of something to do with the Diamond Rio. And it was a picture of a guy holding a Diamond Rio from back in the day. And I had one of these devices. I remember paying way too much money for it. Apparently, I paid $199 for an MP3 player, the world's first, I believe.
And that's in 90s money, too.
Yes. Yeah. What month was this? What year and month was this issue, Alan? July 1998.
Yeah.
So the MP3 goes mobile. Diamond's Rio, PMP 300, the PEMP 300 portable music player. You could play. It had 32 megabytes of storage. and you could play 66 minutes of audio if you did 64 kilobit per second encoded audio.
But you could pay $50 extra and get 48 meg total.
Right, through like an add-in thing. It took AA batteries. I read this review. This is from PC Magazine, and some of the stuff in it was great. They talk about during our tests, Rio proved impervious to the most rigorous shaking and played back without interruption.
Because it had no moving parts.
Because like the idea of solid state playback, if anything, was
so they were probably actually
they were like
actually shaking it. Like
no, wouldn't that have had like a micro drive in it?
No,
it was
all solid state. That's why it cost so much.
Yeah. It was 32 megs of flash storage.
Yep.
And they say the Rio has no moving parts. It doesn't skip the way CD players can. No shit. Works only with MP3 files. They talk about the process of like ripping a CD, and it was took slightly longer to rip a CD. Took slightly longer to encode the music than it took to listen to it.
Yep. And I don't even think it worked right with variable bitrate.
You couldn't do variable bitrate. You could do 64.
And 128
or 128.
Yep.
But when you did 128 kilobit per second audio, you only got 33 minutes of listening time.
Yep.
Which is like, so you had to pick your favorite 6 out of the 9 tracks of that CD you liked to put on your PIM 300.
And it was serial.
It's funny. They also talked about
USB.
Correct. Yeah. They talked about.
So it's a good thing it didn't have a lot of storage.
On our test, most songs were slightly distorted at the 64 kilobit per second encoding rate, though the distortion would be unnoticeable if you were working out in the gym.
They just heard the MP3 artifacts.
And they call the 33 minutes at a virtually distortion-free 128 kilobits per second.
And that was back when your encoder actually mattered.
Oh, really?
If you got the super secret underground like Fraunhofer codec.
Green code, man.
That was like the license fee was like $1,000 for or something insane, right? It was like the broadcast quality MP3 encoder.
Big ass installer where you picked and chose the encoders that you installed.
It was like, but it was like, hands down, it was like a noticeable improvement or whatever. But funny story about this thing, solid state and everything. The XO on my first submarine had one of these.
Yeah.
With the upgrade.
Yep.
So he had just bought it. Basically means he just plunked down like $250.
Yep.
Right. We go out to sea. It's like a couple weeks. We're out to sea. He brings me a bag full of pieces. So he loaded it up, and he went to go run on the elliptical or the treadmill. And on a submarine, it's like at the back of the missile compartment. There's a couple of treadmills, like up against the back wall.
Yeah.
They're pointing forward. So it falls off the tread
and it
hits the treadmill. The treadmill flings it back straight into like basically a solid steel wall, and it just shatters, right?
Yeah.
And fortunately, he found all the pieces, and I was able to put it all back together. And it
was just the plastic that was broken?
The housing. He gave me buttons. Like it was all out. Like the PCB was just the PCB.
The PCB was still one piece.
Yeah, it was
clearly.
one piece. Yeah. Nothing actually broke, but like everything that could come apart came apart.
Nice.
Were you assembling it under the threat that you were going out the torpedo tube?
No, I was just the random techie guy on the sub that everybody brought their broken electronics
Minimum
to
requirements, 16 megs of RAM, 20 megabytes of hard disk space, Windows 95 or 98. Please call Diamond Multimedia Systems, Inc., San Jose, California, 800-468-5846.
Yep.
Do you sadly want to see something that was within arm's reach?
Sure.
This is a couple of years, but not very far away.
I can't read that.
It's a Mushkin MP3.
Oh, the Mushkin
player.
one.
Gosh, we can't show that on the air.
Mushkin was around then, huh?
Man.
Oh, it had a USB port. That's so modern.
And it charged it.
Oh my goodness.
Load up your MP3s.
I would bet. No, I bet my
also
I would have found my Diamond Rio by now.
Yeah,
had it existed.
Yeah. To the people in chat who called me out for saying it has serial, not USB. Yes, I know. And yes, I know USB is serial.
Oh,
had an RS-232 port on it.
So Ryan, scroll up.
This.
I had that plugged into my desktop PC today.
A Zip 250 SCSI drive?
Well, a Zip 250 USB version. This was the USB version, not the SCSI version. Because all that was out then was the SCSI version, I think.
$200, the same price as my MP3 player. This held 250 megs of data.
Yep. I was only using a Zip 100 disk because I
only went to Zip 100. I never went above Zip 100, and I never had a Jazz drive either.
The only reason I have this 250 drive is because my wife had one. And so now it just like sits in the computer room. But
Zip disks were great.
They were.
Until they're not.
Well, I will say, so I went to the basement and I went through and I found the box of zip disks, right? Of old zip disks.
That's so disappointing to hear. But
Came back up, I plugged in this drive. The first 3 disks I put in that drive, it was doing the click of death on. And I was like, did the drive break? I thought the 250 model, they had this fixed. And like, sure enough, the 4th disk I put in, it actually worked. And I was like, okay, so we had just 3 bad zip disks. All right, fine.
That's nuts. So anyway, that's my pick of the week is go find yourself a
old piece of computer crap.
There's a zip disk. Yeah. Is that a 100?
It's a 100. It's within reach. It's probably got drivers on it.
If it doesn't have the number on it, it's a 100. When they came out with the 250, then they started numbering the 100s.
Reverse going back in. Okay.
Yeah.
Ars Technica had an article last October about using a Diamond Rio PMP 300.
Today.
Can this classic 18-year-old MP3 player still cut it?
And?
No.
Oh.
No?
Also, it's parallel. I'm once again wrong. Please, for the love of God. Please, for the love of God.
I don't, I looked in that review. It does not mention how you connect it to the PC at all.
This Ars article
I was disappointed.
does. It's actually a cool article.
Wasn't it serial?
No, it's parallel.
No, it was parallel.
Because one of the issues this guy had
finding a parallel port?
Yeah, getting a parallel USB adapter that worked.
Now, they also had a SCSI
you need a really
version.
old school sound card.
SCSI. There you go.
Yeah.
Of the Rio?
Yeah, for the Macs. No, not the Rio, the Zips.
Yeah. That's that review was the SCSI version.
That was the SCSI version, yeah.
All right. Who's up? Jeremy?
There's a rather decent deal on a family of power supplies on Newegg up for us up in Canada. The Rosewill Glacier Series, which is fully modular, but yet well under $100. The 5, the 6, and the $700 or 5, 600, and 700 watt are all at least $50 off. So if
That's
you need
nice.
a power supply in the next couple of hours, it's worth taking a look at. And honestly, if you're building a Ryzen system and you need more than 700 watts, you're doing something weird.
I don't disagree with that necessarily.
Quad 480s.
I think you're doing it wrong.
I agree.
I would agree. Josh.
Me. Saving my job, one piece of free software at a time.
You're fired.
Yeah, it is. Test Desk.
No, you're fired.
You know what? There are a lot of options out there, and this is one that just keeps performing well. So somebody brings you in a portable hard drive and says, I've got 2 years of data on here from the field, and I've been carrying this in my purse for the past 2 years along dirt roads and everything. And suddenly it's not showing me all the data that I saved to it.
Sucks, bro.
This actually is recovered the data. So, certain circumstances, it will work, and it's free, and it's powerful.
As Allyn will be one to point out, image the drive before you do data recovery.
Yes.
That's a good idea.
Yes.
As Ryan would say, take a chance.
Just do it.
Take a chance on life.
Not only that, it tends to go much faster, especially if you're imaging into just something faster, because the data recovery thing, depending on what you're trying to do with it, might have to crunch on it a lot. Like it might have to scan the entire partition front to back, regardless of whether it thinks there's files there or not, just to make sure it has gotten everything, right? So, and there are some times where you'll do a scan with one set of settings, and a different set of settings might actually help you better, but you have to redo the scan. So, if you're already committed to doing this multiple times, you might as well just image it first and play with the image instead.
That's what she said. Moving on. That doesn't make any sense. Allyn,
That does
what do
not
you got?
make any sense. I know we talked about these coming out a little while ago, but I did buy them and start playing around with them and got the free games that you get with the Oculus Touch controllers, which are still only $100.
Allyn, when did you buy an Oculus?
I had one given to me.
Why did you say it like that again?
Because
he's embarrassed.
Stapler was given to me.
Did you steal the Oculus from the office?
No.
Okay. It's fine.
That's in a bag over there from when I stole it.
Oh.
Okay.
No. I had an Oculus.
Okay, anyway.
Yeah, so touch controllers, $100, comes with, at least one notable free game, and that's that robot.
Robo Recall.
Robo Recall.
Talk about this.
Yeah, I put a link there with that. There's an article there linked in the show notes that also goes through, like, there's a list of other free games as well that I'm not sure if they come with just the touch controller or just the fact that you have an Oculus or whatnot, but there's...
Well, the title of this story is Free Oculus Touch Games You Should Be Playing. So I would say they both are free and require Oculus Touch.
But I think there might be one or two in there that's just like regular free Oculus games or something. I'm not sure. Anyway, it looks like a decent number of games that even, if you have an Oculus Rift and you don't have the touch controllers, like, I don't know if they're going to end this promotion at any point in time.
I doubt it.
I don't know.
The $99 price point, you mean?
Well, that and or maybe some of the games at some point they might.
Oh, well, that may be, but I think the price is where it's going to be and where it should have been. So
I thought initially,
as somebody who paid $200 for them,
they came out for $200 initially, and then they dropped. Well, I mean, so we don't know if that's going to go back.
I would assume it's not, because
they're not going to raise the price on that stuff again.
I don't think they will. So. All right, that is
still very strange when you get the hands wrong.
Well,
same applies to the Vive controllers as well.
Also you can't get the hands wrong on the touch.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, you can.
They're keyed left and right. You can't get them wrong on the Vive.
That's all I'm saying. Vive.
Yeah, but the Oculus, no, they're keyed left and right.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, no, you
can't use them incorrectly.
Yeah, but you can grab the wrong one and try to use it. Like, you can try to pick it up,
but
which
you know
I've done.
immediately it's the wrong one. Yeah. Whereas on the Vive, you have no idea. And I very often had to swap controllers once I'm in the game.
Yeah, because the hands are. But you get into VR.
Yeah.
Well, that's. Well, they don't cross on the Oculus, but
try to play it like that.
Definitely weird.
More interesting.
The back of the hand is wrong.
All right, everybody, that's going to be the show for this week. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. You can find all of our back episodes, our show notes, links to all the stories and the picks we have this week at pcper.com/podcast. And again, if you want to support us directly for the show we do or the website and the articles we write, you can go to patreon.com/pcper and support us there. We were short of our 400-person goal here by 2 today, so... It's a goal for next week. And also, do not forget, we have our meetup in London. So if anybody wants to meet Josh and I at a bar in London, and we'll probably buy you a drink or something. Maybe I'll make Josh do it. Or
something.
We'll be at one of these we'll be at this fancy spot in this fancy location on Wednesday, April 27th. And if you go to the website and look up the PC Per Meetup in London page, you will see it there, and you will see us there in London, which is apparently in another country. It's very true.
I need a passport. Is it too late for me to get one?
No, I think if you just show up at the airport and you say, I work for Ryan, and they'll be like, oh, he just came through. That's fine. Go ahead. You may enter. I think it would be good.
That's good.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next week. I'm Ryan Shrout.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
And I'm Allyn Malmontano.
Goodbye. If you enjoyed this content, consider supporting in-depth technical content by contributing at patreon.com/PCPer.